You are listening to the best, the only place to be on Tuesday night. That's right, you're listening to The Right Stuff, and you're at the right place at the right time. From England to Canada, from Detroit to the Poconos, we are showcasing Christian authors worldwide, giving you tips, tools, techniques, and resources for you, the writer, to hone and perfect your craft. Tune in every Tuesday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time right here on WPJC 104.5. And your host, Parker J. Cole. Hi, and welcome to the show. You're at the right place at the right time. I'm your host, Parker J., and I'm so glad you're able to join me for this edition of The Right Stuff. I'm looking forward to our conversation with our guest co-host and contributor today, Ruth O'Neill. She's going to be talking to us about her newest release called Belonging, and we get to that in just a few moments. I want to go ahead and make you aware of a contest that's coming up for Penguin Books USA. It's regarding the Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry series. For some of you who know what that means, it was a African-American book from back in the day that just touched millions of lives, especially myself. It's a story about a young girl in the Deep South in Georgia. And so to celebrate the Roll Up Under Hear My Cry series, Penguin USA is sponsoring a contest looking for diverse fiction writers in the young adult category. So to get more information, simply Google Roll Up Under Hear My Cry contest on Google, and you'll be able to get more information about that. So if you want to try your hand at that, go ahead and look online today for that information. As always, I want to thank you for your support of my books. You can find all my books online at my website, www.parkerjcole.com. If you want to weigh in on today's topic, you certainly can. Simply call in at 646-668-8485 and press 1 to be live on air. Or you can hit me on Twitter at ParkerJCole, #RightStuff, with your questions and comments. We're going to go ahead and take a quick short break, and we'll be right back after these messages. Don't go anywhere. More with Parker and her guests on the Right Stuff Radio Show. We'll be right back.
Are you a reader looking for more compelling Christian fiction? Maybe something a little more edgy or a bit more real? Are you tired of most Christian fiction shying away from the truth and settling for a rose-tinted view of the world and its issues? Or are you an author who has a compelling story to tell, but you're afraid it doesn't jive with today's brand of Christian or secular fiction? Are you tired of Christian publishers telling you that your content is too edgy? Or maybe you've tried submitting your content under the radar to secular publishers only to be told your themes are a bit too religious? We invite you to take a look at the Crossover Alliance. We are an online publishing company that specializes in edgy Christian speculative fiction with Christian themes and real-world content. Our company is formed from authors and readers just like you who are breaking into the mainstream and Christian markets with this compelling genre. Head over to the www.thecrossoveralliance.com for all the details on who we are, what we do, and what we accept. Right now, if you sign up for our email newsletter, you'll receive a free digital copy of our first short story anthology. Check us out today and help us spread the word about the Crossover Alliance, where light shines brighter in the darkness.
Have you read the latest issue of SORMAG Digital, the award-winning literary magazine for multicultural readers and writers? SORMAG Digital is available quarterly and showcases interviews with the best authors in multicultural literature. SORMAG Digital features craft and business articles for those interested in writing. If you're looking for a good book, check out our book reviews on what's hot in multicultural literature. For writers looking for new readers to get in front of, SORMAG Digital is the perfect place to introduce your book. We offer advertising spaces that fit your promotional budget. Get your free subscription on SORMAG.com or order a print issue on MagCloud.com. If you would like more information about SORMAG Digital, check us out on SORMAG.com or contact us at SORMAG@yahoo.com. SORMAG Digital is the magazine for multicultural readers and writers.
Question: if you write a book, everybody will rush out to buy it. Obvious answer: no. If you were a celebrity or if you had a huge marketing budget, then maybe you can get a lot of exposure for your book. Another solution would be to check out JoeyTweets.com. JoeyTweets.com is a promotion and marketing service with access to over 1/3 of a million followers on Twitter. JoeyTweets.com has 3 packages available to fit any budget. That's JoeyTweets.com. joeytweets.com. Get some serious exposure for your books.
Hi, and welcome back to the show. You're listening to The Right Stuff here on WPJC 104.5. Again, I'm so glad you're able to join me today. Like I said, we're going to have an absolutely wonderful time with my guest co-host and contributor today, Ruth O'Neill. And to kind of start off the show, I was remembering, as I was doing the show description for today's broadcast, I was remembering a movie called D.A.R. And D.A.R. was a movie about a robot who resembles a 10-year-old boy that was built by the government. And as I watched the movie as a kid, I always loved the song that played at the end of the movie called Somewhere I Belong by Teddy Pendergrass. And if you're listening in and online, you can click the link and you can hear the song yourself. So I absolutely love that song. And it just really resonates within me because we all are looking for some place to belong. We all want to have some sort of a group identity with either our spouse, our loved ones, or just people that we work with or that we have different things that we interact with each other. We're all looking for somewhere to belong. So I thought it was very appropriate to title the show Somewhere I Belong, to kind of depict the longing that lies inside of our heart for a place to belong. And with us to discuss that topic in more detail is my wonderful guest, co-host and contributor, Ruth O'Neill. Ruth, how are you doing today?
I'm doing just great. How about you?
I'm doing good too, Ruth, and I want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us on the show to help us unpack this topic. So thanks so much for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to it all week.
You know, it's funny because the last time we talked, we had just a quick mini interview, and it's been like a year since then, so I'm really glad I had the opportunity to have a more in-depth conversation with you, kind of let people know what you're doing, what your books are about, where you're online, all that good stuff. So I'm looking forward to our talk today. And to start off, I really want people to know who you are. So in your own words, tell us who you are.
Okay. I was born and raised in New York near Syracuse, which is the claim to fame. They have the claim to fame of being the snowiest city in the country. I married my junior high school sweetheart, and we're about to celebrate our 25th wedding anniversary in April.
Oh, wow.
We have 3 children. Our oldest is already married. Our second is getting married this coming July, and our youngest has about a year and a half left of high school. We live in Virginia now together. And as far as my writing, I've been writing since I was 9 years old. That was when I wrote my first story. My mother was a writer, and I think a lot of little girls want to be just like their mom when they grow up, and I was the same. And my mom was a great influence on me. She was always there, always supporting me and helping me get started. And now I have been freelancing and writing books for the past 20 years or so. I write for a variety of publications. Those are for all ages, magazines, a lot of Sunday school take-home papers. When I'm not writing, the things that I enjoy doing, I enjoy camping with my family. Actually, when we're camping, I actually do a lot of writing because the guys go out and do their kayaking or fishing, and I'm left alone, and I'm happy.
Yeah.
I enjoy scrapbooking and quilting is kind of my writing thinking time. When I get stuck on something, I know I can go sew for a while, and my mind can work while I'm working on a mindless activity.
Yeah, I've never understood quilting. How does that work? Because I think it's a very delicate type of handcraft there, but how does quilting work?
I follow patterns. I have patterns where I cut out, different pieces of fabric and then sew them together. And then once you get a top of a quilt completed, you then have to layer it with some batting and a backing. I actually got started in it when we were having company come, and I didn't have enough blankets for everybody.
Oh,
and
yeah?
I was like, oh. And my mom had passed away, and I inherited all of her fabric because she sewed a lot as well. And so I was like, well, let me take some of this fabric and I will make a quilt and we'll have enough blankets. And that's how I got started in it, and I've just always enjoyed it. That's my relaxing time for me.
Well, they do say that necessity is the mother of all creation, so that's real good that you mentioned that.
That is definitely true.
Oh, well, that's good. I'm glad to know that because I've always wondered about quilting. I don't particularly have an interest in it myself, but I've always wondered about quilting because I knit. I'm a knitter. I'm a very avid knitter. I love to knit, even though it's been a while since I've knitted something, but I'm a very avid knitter, so that was kind of cool to know that background there. So we're talking about your books. You said how your mom was such a huge influence in your life when it comes to writing because we generally do want to be like our moms. You know, those of us who have been blessed with great parents, we do generally want to be like our mom. And so can you kind of tell us if some of that is what led you to write the book Belonging?
I guess I wrote it because my heart goes out to people who are alone. Mm-hmm. I have never known what it is to be alone, but not everyone is so lucky, unfortunately. Mm. Also, my parents instilled in me a great love of history. We would visit all these historical places whenever we went on vacation. My mom actually wrote a historical novel, and history has always been a part of my life, and history is part of this story as well, especially genealogy. Mm-hmm. My mom did a lot of research on our family tree while I was growing up. And she did it the old-fashioned way before the Internet and everything. Mm-hmm. She had to do everything by mail. And I love the stories behind some of the family histories. I have a friend that I was doing some work for him on his family history. Mm-hmm. And he got a story from his 90-year-old great-aunt that was from the Civil War.
Wow,
and it was
really?
Just passed down through his family. And the story is just amazing. Mm-hmm. And it just makes me want to write about things like that and to make people aware that if they search for their family history, they have no idea what they would uncover.
That is so very true. I remember when we were doing our own family history, my one cousin, she was very active in getting a lot of that done and taken care of, and that had to do with our family history. And you're always so shocked at how much family history that makes a part of who you are. And I think that's the amazing thing about that connection from the past to the present, knowing that, hey, guess what? This blood flows through my veins. That just totally blows me away sometimes. And so you just said that you have a heart for people who are loners or isolated. So do you think just in general, even though people who call themselves loners, do they really want to be alone?
I think some of them think they want to be alone. Mm-hmm. I think some of them just use alone as a coping mechanism maybe to prove that they don't care or that they like it that way. Mm-hmm. I think alone has different connotations. And like I said, I've never been alone, but I like to be home alone once in a while.
Right.
When it's quiet and nobody's here, I can do whatever I want, when I want, clean the house, and it stays clean.
Right.
But I know my family's coming back. Mm-hmm. And then there are people who are truly alone that don't have anybody. There's different types of alone, definitely. And I'm not sure everybody wants to be alone.
I think you make a good point.
If it's something
there.
They can't help.
You make a good point there. We did get a comment from Sheila in Detroit. Sheila says, God did not create man to live in isolation. It is human nature for man to belong. We all have a need and a desire to belong. This is one of our basic needs that must be met. The saying, no man is an island, is true. We must fulfill that innate feeling of belongingness, closeness, and attachment. Scientists have continued to study the subject of man versus himself, and the findings are still the same. Man cannot live alone. He can't lock himself out of the world. When you see the news and hear about gang cult activities, these people feel they belong. They seek out, they refer to the group as family. These groups fulfill their need of emptiness, loneliness that's inside of the person. In God's creation, he said, it is not good for man to be alone. I'll create him a helpmeet. From the beginning, God knew what we needed. And Sheila, thank you so much for your comment. If you want to weigh in on our topic, feel free to do so. Simply call in at 646-668-8485 and press 1 to be live on air. Or hit me on Twitter at ParkerJCole, #WriteStuff with your questions and comments. So it kind of brings me to my question here, because Sheila kind of touched on it a little bit, Ruth, and you kind of talk about people wanting to be alone, stuff like that. So when people join groups like ISIS, which is very adversarial dangerous group to be part of, or gang groups, or any kind of other destructive activities that group people participate in, are they trying to fulfill a need inside themselves?
First of all, I'd like to comment on Sheila's. I love that. That was great.
Sure.
And to answer your question, absolutely. And I think it's more than just organizations or groups that people join. I think people change who they are just to feel like they can fit in. And I can think of a few people right now. I guess they've been fresh on my mind within the last month or so. They changed who they were just to try and fit in and to be something that they weren't, but they ended up committing suicide. And I think they were miserable in their pretending. And I think people do it to feel like they're supported in some way when they join these groups or organizations like ISIS or gangs. I think they feel like they want to be supported. Maybe they aren't receiving the support that they need at home or even among their friends. And I think gangs and maybe even ISIS, I'm really not, besides what I hear on the news, not real familiar with their workings, but you watch old movies with gangs and they take care of their own.
Yeah.
And I think we need to be that way.
I think you're right.
I think be more accepting of people.
Yeah, and I think you're right, because we're all searching for that identity. You know, we want to know who we are, how do I fit in the world. And when we have people with like interests, like activities that we do, we have a group, so we're connected in. I remember for myself, Ruth, when I first joined the church I'm currently attending now, it was a very big church, and there were like thousands of people there. And I remember hating it at first because it was so different from what I had known, because I had known smaller churches, the pastor knew my name, I didn't have to go through, fill out a form, all these kind of things. They totally made me feel quite alone. I remember sitting in the pew. I was part of the PWA, which my mother would say the Pew Warmers Association. So I was part of the pew for about a year, and I sat there and I hated being there. And I remember one of the ladies at the door, she always smiled at me, "Hi, how are you?" And I would go, leave me alone, I don't always bother me. And so I remember my grandmother spoke to me, and I said, "This is so different, Mama." She said, "The Lord is with you. He's not locked in the building, right?" So when she said that, I said, "Yeah." Literally, I just said it like that, like, "Yeah." She was like, "You don't have to worry that you're alone." And so when I got that in my head and really took it for what it meant, that I'm not alone, then I was able to go forth and I joined the choir, and now I am just as plugged in, and I feel as if I'm part of a group at home. And the church became much more enjoyable for me. As far as like corporate worship, became much more joyful for me. So I'm kind of glad you mentioned that kind of thing.
I'm glad. I mean, I've grown up the same way. We were always part of small churches, and we were always able to be involved. And the church we attend now is much smaller than yours. I mean, with only about 500 people, but it was huge to us. And you're right. Until you get plugged in, until you get to know people, you kind of feel like an outsider. But you need to work at being part of the group. Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard, especially when you're out of your comfort zone and you're in a situation where you're like, I don't know if I can do this. Because when I was there, like I said, it's like thousands of people go to this church. And I remember thinking, God can't be here. It's too big.
It's hard.
That. Yeah, so it's very difficult. So I'm kind of glad we touched on that. And so it kind of brings my next question before we go to our break here is how does God feel that need of belonging? Now, I know how I felt for me, but just in your own words, Ruth, how does God feel that need for belonging?
I think, I know God can fill us with the peace that passes all understanding. God can help us to see ourselves how He sees us. He can help us to understand that He loves us just the way that we are. And I think that's what's most important, because we're all looking to be something different. But God's like, no, I created you like this, and this is how I want you. I think we do need the interaction of other people. Some of us maybe need that interaction more than others. But if we seriously pray about it, God will meet our needs, whether that is with family, friends, or something else, depending on our situation.
I think that's profound what you said. I was remembering a Bible narrative where I was talking, well, not where I was talking, where Jeremiah was it Jeremiah? Elijah. I always get them mixed up when Elijah was talking, and he was going against Ahab and Jezebel. And he's like, oh, Lord, I'm the only one left. No one's following you. And the Lord said, I got 7,000. I ain't bowed down to Baal. I got 7,000. And it lets me know that God, first of all, hears our cries of loneliness. You know, he hears our cries when we have those feelings of loneliness. And then he lets us know that, guess what, you're never alone. And so when you hear people who say, I'm a loner, or I tend to want to be by myself, or you see people who are alone, what are some things that we can do to try to make that person feel like that they are a part of something? Even someone, let's say it's someone we don't know. Let's just say it's someone we see on the street, and we have a habit of seeing them every day, but they seem to be alone. What do you think we can do to kind of bridge a gap or just something toward them? I know we have to use discernment because this can't go with anybody because people are crazy nowadays, but what could we do?
Yes.
What could we do? Mm-hmm.
It's funny you mentioned this. My husband talked about it with me the other day. He's like, we are such bad neighbors because we don't talk to our neighbors, and we live in people are right next door. Mm-hmm. But so he has made an effort to, we had a big snowstorm over the weekend, so he was shoveling our neighbor's sidewalk just to be nice, and helping the young girl across the street get her car out. Just little things. You see a need, maybe just meet it. Do it without being asked. I think we need to just reach out and say hi, how are you, and start a conversation with people, because I'm not good at it. I'm not. I'm just so not good at it. I don't think that I'm shy, but I'm not going to be the first one to say something either. I'm not going to. Some people can just. My dad is one of them. My dad can have a conversation with a complete stranger, and they're best friends by the time they're done. Mm-hmm. I did not inherit that. I just
that gene skipped over me, right?
It skipped way over me. That's just not in my nature, and I have to sometimes put myself out there a little bit. The leader of our ladies group at our church, she had encouraged all of us to just invite somebody else to come to our ladies meetings each month. Just when we're shaking hands with people during the welcome time, just say, hey, have you been to the ladies fellowship? Do you want to come? I'll sit with you. And I think it's just, stepping out of where you are comfortable and reaching out, because you don't know, maybe that person really wants to go but doesn't know anybody and just wants a little invite. And how painful is that, really?
You got a good point there, Ruth. You definitely have a good point. I was also thinking about how loneliness isn't always seen as someone standing by themselves. I was thinking of children who bully other children, and they bully them and antagonize them. What are your thoughts about that? Is that a cry rather for attention? Is it a sign of loneliness in your opinion? What do you think about that when it comes to like bullies and people who are doing that sort of thing?
The bullies themselves?
Yeah.
That probably falls in two categories. Mm-hmm. The mother in me would probably say, what is the matter with those parents?
Right.
But then when I stop to think about it, then I would be like, why is that child acting that way? What is causing that? Because it's not normal behavior.
Okay.
I mean, I've worked with kids forever. From little kids. I've always worked in the nursery. My husband and I have worked with youth group. We've taught Sunday school. We teach kids over the summer at our church now. And for the most part, kids are not naturally a bully. Mm-hmm. I mean, some of them can be meaner than others and maybe say things that they shouldn't say. But I don't think kids are normally mean. Any kids that I know I think they put me to shame a lot of times with how they treat people, and they just want to be loved, and they want to be loved in return, and they'll be your friend. They don't care what your name is, as long as you're nice to them. I think, but then I think that there's bullies who are reaching out. Maybe that's their cry, like you said, maybe that's their cry, their way to get attention because they're not getting something that they need. So
exactly.
I think there's a couple of different reasons why they might be bullies.
That's true, and I like how you say that because it's not just one thing. But sometimes it can also be a sign of loneliness because they're craving
Absolutely.
the attention. It could be a sign of loneliness, craving the attention. And we're just having a fantastic time talking with Ruth O'Neill. She is the author of the book Belonging. You can get that today. It's available on Amazon.com. You can get it today for 99 cents. So go ahead and love on my sister, buy her books today. And if you want to weigh in on our topic, you certainly can by calling in at 646-668-8485 and press 1 to be live on air, or hit me on Twitter at Parker J. Cole, #RightStuff with your questions and comments. We're going to go ahead and take a quick short break, and when we come back, more with Ruth O'Neill and Somewhere I Belong.
Don't go anywhere. More with Parker and her guests on the Right Stuff Radio Show. We'll be right back.
Engaging the culture's imagination through speculative fiction, the Untold Podcast produces audio fiction from a Christian worldview. Find us over at untoldpodcast.com, where we partner with authors to tell science fiction, fantasy, supernatural, and horror stories. Find links at untoldpodcast.com to subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, and a variety of other platforms. Each month we produce high-quality audio fiction that's free to download and free to listen. Our submissions are open, and we're always looking to add another great story to over 24 hours of narrative entertainment. Find all of our audio fiction over at www.untoldpodcast.com.
Authors, are you looking for a new way to get your book in the hands of new audience of targeted buyers? Then a virtual book tour is for you. Right now, virtual book tours is an excellent opportunity for you to introduce your book and who you are as an author. Launching your book is very important. A virtual book tour will connect you with readers. We at WNL, we specialize in book tours, book blasts, radio tours, cover reveals, and Facebook chat. Promoting and marketing your book is what we do. Online publicity, the exposure and the publicity is what you need. Let us help you reach new readers and a new audience. We take care of everything so you don't have to. We set up the tour for you. We connect you with bloggers to advertise your book by way of interviews, guest posts, and reviews. If you are an author of a newly published book, have an upcoming release, or just want to give a previously published book new life, a virtual book tour is your answer. Check our tours out at www.wnlbooktours.com. Visit me on Facebook. I am the owner, Paulette Harper.
This broadcast of the PJC Media Network seeks to present wholesome, thought-provoking, and entertaining content. However, the views expressed by the hosts of PJC Media are theirs and theirs alone. They do not reflect the views of this network or its affiliates. Please utilize listener discretion.
And we are back, and you are listening to The Right Stuff here on WPJC 104.5. I'm your host, Parker J. We're having a wonderful time talking about Somewhere I Belong with my guest co-host and contributor today, Ruth O'Neill. And I'm so glad, Ruth, that you're able to join us today for the show and just really help us unpack the topic of Somewhere I Belong. So thank you once again for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
You know, I have sent out a couple of questions to our listeners before the show, and I just kind of wanted to get some idea of what people are thinking. And so one of the things that come to mind is the interaction that we have in the virtual world. So one of the questions that I asked was, do people feel closer to virtual friends than people in the quote-unquote real world? And we did get a couple of responses. I'm just going to read two of them. Chuck in Atlanta says, sometimes we spend more time with virtual friends than real friends. I have close virtual friends that I interact with that I feel I've met in real person. And Chuck, thank you so much for your comment. And then Jenny from Iowa says, several years ago, there were several of us that met, quote-unquote, and began chatting in an Amazon discussion group for Christian authors. At first, we chatted mainly about our favorite books. It didn't take long, however, before we began chatting about everything under the sun. I looked forward to our daily chats and was disappointed if it happened to be a quiet day in the group. I was even able to meet one of the ladies in person for coffee once, and I know other ladies in the group had similar experiences. After about a year, we all seemed to go our separate ways. It was quite frankly disappointing at the time, and I experienced a feeling of loss. While virtual friends should never completely take the place of physically interacting with people face-to-face, the relationship formed online can be just as meaningful as other relationships we develop with people around us. And, Jenny, thank you so much for your comment. So it kind of brings me a tangent point to our topic about Somewhere I Belong, where we have this connection between the real world and the virtual world coming together, being part of our new reality, especially in the 21st century. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, my personal experience is for our family, we have a lot of family that we don't live anywhere near. We have big families, and they're scattered all over the place. Mm-hmm. So I like social media, email, whatever, to keep up with them. Like I said, I grew up in New York. I now live in Virginia. A lot of my friends that I went to school and college with, a lot are in New York, but they're scattered around a little bit too. So I do like it for keeping up with my friends that I wouldn't any other way. Mm-hmm. And as far as professionally, I do a lot of my writing work, a lot of promotions and stuff online, and I have developed relationships with some of the people that I've never met personally. Mm-hmm. And I really appreciate it when we can ask each other for prayer, and I know that they're there, because most of my friends, the ones that I've met online, are Christians. Mm-hmm. And I've tried to keep it that way. And I appreciate their prayers. And I think there's something to be said for on Facebook, for example. I can post a prayer request on Facebook. I don't even have to say what it is. God knows what it is. I just need your prayers, or one of my friends or family members needs prayers. And I can get, 100 people commenting and liking that they're praying. Mm-hmm. And they're all over the world. And to me, that's a wonderful feeling. Just, I can imagine all the voices just going up to heaven on behalf of somebody that I care about. And so I think that it's a different type of relationship, definitely, because there's things that I wouldn't tell my writing friends, is what I call them, that I would tell somebody, personally.
Exactly.
I've drawn that line where, okay, you are on Facebook, you are on Twitter, I know you're a real person, but you're not that close to me. And
exactly.
I try to keep up with my friends, especially locally, hey, want to go out to lunch, or make a point of keeping up with them face-to-face, not just socially online.
And I agree, and there is something to that. And what happens with the virtual world, I think, it's actually a phenomenon. I wonder what studies will show 100 years from now about this virtual connections that we have with people. But what do you say that kind of relates to the whole point about God creating us to be together and not to be alone? What would you say to that?
Absolutely. We need each other. Mm-hmm. I mean, I need my friends. I have friends that I can go to and discuss a situation, and I know it's not going any further than them, but I also know that they'll give me advice. I appreciate my friends who say, you know what, Ruth, you are wrong right here. What if you change this? Because we can't always just say, no, you're right, remedy this situation by this, or like I know people who they're having trouble in their marriage, and all they want to hear is just leave him. You don't deserve that. And sometimes we need to, the problem isn't necessarily him, it might be us.
Yeah.
And just leaving a situation isn't the answer, because then you're going to go and get in another relationship and get married again, and you haven't solved any of the issues that you had at first.
Exactly.
So I appreciate my friends that can that I can talk to, and they'll tell me the truth. We all need that.
You definitely need that. It leads me to my question about belonging, which is your news release about that you have available for our listeners and our readers to pick up. So go ahead, tell us about belonging.
Okay. Shelley is my main character, and she finds her world completely turned upside down after her father dies. She is painfully shy and introverted. Because of his death, she's forced to talk with people, especially strangers, and she does not do that. She finds she might have to move away from her apartment, which has been her comfort zone. as with any adult child who's lost a parent, they have to sort through things, decide what to keep, what to get rid of. And as she's sorting through some of the possessions at his house, it brings back a lot of memories for her, including how they would research her mom's genealogy. Her mom passed away when she was a child or a baby. Mm-hmm. And that was her father's way of helping her get to know her mother's family, because her mother's family is all deceased. And Shelley wonders, after going through his stuff, she wonders why they never researched his family. She never remembers any family events or family pictures or, holidays with families. And it makes her wonder why. So she begins a journey that takes her to places that she never dreamed. And throughout the entire story, God nudges Shelley to get out of her comfort zone. While it's easy for some, for Shelley, she thinks it's just about impossible.
Mm-hmm. And so when we talk about the book and you talk about how there's this person, it could easily be some people that we know, people who are very comfortable in doing that. But sometimes, and I like how you kind of are using this with your character Shelley, that comfort is what isolates us, and that comfort keeps us from experiencing life and getting to know people. So I'm really glad that you are touching on that subject. So what made you want to write Belonging?
I guess it was, we were going through a Bible study in Our Lady's Fellowship, and it was all about stepping out of the boat. And that's part of the theme that goes through the book, stepping out of our boat, out of our comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And I guess part of it is what made me want to write it was my good memories of not being alone, if that makes any sense. I have always been surrounded by a loving family. We're not perfect, but we love each other. And I wanted people to see that God is always with them, and that in spite of their circumstances, they are never truly alone if they have God in their lives. A lot of my writing is emotional and based on memories that I've had. I can remember when I was a little girl, when my mom was doing her research on our family tree, we would go to the big library in Syracuse and spend the entire day just looking for family and looking for articles or anything that we could that would link us to the past. And those memories are very precious to me. In fact, some of my specific memories actually make it into the book, especially when we were in the library in Syracuse. Mm-hmm.
And so that's the type of thing that you explore through Belonging. And I like how you say that, because I know for myself, now my husband, I love these, I can't help but say this because, I've been doing this show for 3 years, Ruth, and I'm sure listeners have been just hit by all these personal stories I have. But anyway, my husband, he has his ear, he has something going on with his ear or whatever. It's nothing bad, just whatever. And so we were looking through his father's looking up the family history, and he happened to look through Ancestry.com, and he found one of his ancestors had the exact same ear that he has. And I told my husband, I said, see, you're not a freak.
That's right.
Family.
Good to know.
For me, that was a connection of belonging, just something very simple like the same physical aspect one of your ancestors may have that you may have. And I think that just brings a lot of comfort to some people when they think they're alone. So, no, you're not alone. You are connected to a long history of people who came before you. And I think that's absolutely fascinating. For me, I think that's absolutely fascinating when we talk about that type of thing.
I think that's one of the things that fascinates me is when my mom did our research. I mean, she had my father's side all the way back to Charlemagne.
Wow.
And
are you
to know
serious?
that we were part of French royalty is like, woo! We're also related to a couple other, relatively well-known people, and they're mentioned in history books, and it's like, oh man, we're related, and it's really cool to see that. And it's just, it's like you said, it's fascinating to me.
You kind of answered my next question about what kind of themes you kind of explore in the book. So you kind of talk about the family history, talk about getting out of your comfort zone, about how it's not good to be alone. You kind of talk about some of those things in your book. So one thing about this show, Rose, is that I always want to encourage our authors who have not picked up the pen to write. And so I always ask the question, how long did it take you to write? Because some authors may say, well, I've been writing this for 3 years and they'll never be written and stuff like that. So I like to ask those kind of questions to let people know that it doesn't matter how long it takes. So how long did it take you to write Belonging?
It probably took me a couple of years. I'm a great starter of projects, not always a great finisher. I'm a little slower at that. But in my defense, life does interrupt at times. I've spent the last 20 years homeschooling my kids, and family has always come before my writing. I can remember when my girls were teenagers, and I would have just sat down to start writing something. That would be the moment they came in the room and wanted to just talk. And I never wanted them to think that I was too busy to talk to them. And I didn't want them to think that they were less important. And so I always put my writing aside. Family has always come first. But now that my kids are older, my youngest is 16, I'm at the point where I can definitely spend a little more time scribbling away. But life still has plenty of interruptions.
Yeah, life tends to do that quite often. You're trying to have fun and something interferes with that. What is that?
I don't know. I spent an hour on the phone with Verizon yesterday because my internet went out, so that was a major interruption in my day. But, that's what happens.
Yeah, you just got to learn how to keep moving on. That's what they always say, keep moving forward, So, people have read your book, so how have readers responded to Belonging?
I've had some really good reviews, at least so far. I'm sure a negative one will pop up sooner or later. I did have one reader tell me that she picked it up and she began to read, but then she had to put it down because it hit too close to home at that point in her life. And that may not necessarily sound good to some people, but to me, I thought it was great because it meant to me that I touched her right from the beginning. And that's wonderful. That's why I write, because I want to make people laugh. I want to make people cry. I want to touch them emotionally, and I did. And I'm confident that she will eventually go back and pick it up again when enough time has passed since the experience that she had. Her father had just passed away. Yeah. And so she could just relate too closely to the book, and that was good for me.
Yeah. And that's good because, not that you want to make people feel sad. Well, maybe
no. I don't want to make them feel bad, but I do want to touch them and make them feel something.
Yeah, and I think that's what every writer wants, to have that impact on a reader, that I really felt this because I experienced this, or you were down my street, you maybe, and I like that aspect of writing. Sometimes we can really touch our readers' hearts. I remember I had a similar experience happen with me with my newest fantasy book I just started that I just published, and someone said, in the beginning, the character's mom passes. He said, my mom just passed in August, and I was like, oh my gosh, I said, well, you don't have to read it if it's too, I don't want to make you sad, because I was just, but we do want that reaction. Let us know, first of all, that our words are effective, and let us know that we can touch the reader's heart. When we come back, we're going to have more with Ruth O'Neill. She is the author of the new release, Belonging, which is available now on Amazon.com. So go ahead, love her, my sister, and get a copy of that today. You can also get at her website, too, and she'll be giving you more information about that when we come back from our break. And after our break, we'll be hearing a review from Deborah Dunson from the Book Evangelist about the book, Carry Me Home. Don't go away. We'll be right back after these messages. Stay tuned.
Don't go anywhere. More with Parker and her guests on the Right Stuff Radio Show. We'll be right back.
God gives humans the gift of making amazing stories to glorify Him. At SpeculativeFaith.com, our ministry is to help fans explore fantasy, science fiction, supernatural stories, and beyond from an intentional and biblical Christian perspective. We share daily articles and have extensive archives tackling hot topics like end times beliefs, the art of writing, creative excellence in the Christian subcultures, discernment, sex, magic, Harry Potter, and space aliens and the Bible. If you are a parent or anyone else with a discriminating palate, our reviewers explore fantastical novels, movies, television, and games in light of God's beauty, goodness, and truth. Want to find Christian stories? The Spec Faith Library lists every fantastical novel we can find from a Christian author. It's all part of our mission to discern, engage, and enjoy fantastical human...
Hi, friends. I'm Dr. Mike Spaulding, inviting you to listen to great Bible teaching on the Transforming Word radio show and podcast. All shows are available on iTunes and Stitcher. Search for the Transforming Word and subscribe for notification of new shows. You may also listen to every episode from my website, www.thetransformingword.com. In addition to the Transforming Word, I want to make you aware of my interview, news, and opinion show, Soaring Eagle Radio. If you're interested in engaging conversations related to a variety of topics not covered by typical news media, then check out Soaring Eagle Radio. You may subscribe to the show on iTunes and Stitcher, and you may listen to every episode on my website, www.soaringeagleradio.com. For more information on my ministries, please email me, Pastor Mike, at cclohio.com. Again, that's Pastor Mike at cclohio.com. Thank you for listening to these shows, and please leave me a note when you do. God bless you today.
And we are back, and you are listening to The Right Stuff here on WPJC 104.5. We're having a fantastic time talking with Ruth O'Neill. She is the author of her newest release called Belonging, which is available online at Amazon.com. As I mentioned to you last week, we do have a new addition to The Right Stuff. We have the book evangelist, D.A.R, who will be sharing her reviews with us on the show. And so today's review is from Carry Me Home, and D.A.R is going to review that book. Tune in.
Hello, this is D.A.R Dunson, your book evangelist, and today I will be reviewing Carry Me Home by Dorothy Adamek. I would like to say that it was the cover and the synopsis that let me know that this would be a magnificent story, but it was the beautiful lyrical words that were splashed across the first page that pulled me into the story. I knew the moment that Fenella called her journal The Everlasting that I was in for a journey, an adventure. I knew I was getting a glimpse of a wonderful tale when George asked Shad to fulfill a promise. The love, the forgiveness, the healing that leaps off the pages and tugs at your heart leaves you breathless and makes you examine your relationship with your awesome Creator. There was a moment in the story where I couldn't contain my tears. Yes, they washed over me, and I wondered if I could have the type of will to forgive and love again. Carry Me Home by Dorothy Adamek.
And we want to thank D.A.R Dunson for her reviews. They will be showcased every week here on The Right Stuff, so stay tuned right there. And they will give you a chance to get your book reviewed by D.A.R, so stay tuned in future editions of The Right Stuff about that. And you know, Ruth, as we come back into our topic about Somewhere I Belong, and of course, thank you again so much for joining us on the show, I wanted to read a comment I got from Sheila. We were talking about the virtual friends and things of that nature. And she said, I have friends that are not my virtual friends because we have a history of knowing each other for many years. Currently, we communicate this way because of our busy lives. This is a good way of keeping in touch with one another. Some of my friends are in other states, so we are still able to communicate. When they are here, we try to get together. For me, virtual can never take the place of face-to-face physical contact. Is still the best form of communication. And Sheila, again, thank you so much for your comment. It kind of brings me to my point about the church now, because the Bible says, forsake not the assembling of yourselves together. And, you know, come each week before the storehouse to give your offerings to the Lord. And so we have this, I'm not a command, but this directive from the Lord saying, you know, let's not forsake each other. But there are people among our congregations who are alone. And not just loners, they're alone. And so how does the church, or does the church address this issue among its parishioners?
I think some churches do this, at least to some extent. And I can only speak for our church because I know what they do. I think our church is wonderful at it. We have different teams that go out each week and visit shut-ins. We have a card ministry where different members of the church send cards to people each week, and those cards reach out to the shut-ins, but they also reach unsaved family members that we've been praying for as a body, and just to those who are sick and hurting. And those cards remind people that they are thought of, that they're prayed for, and that they're loved. I know our pastor every once in a while tells a story when he's visited with somebody who's received a card, how they just have it sitting right where they can see it, and they make a point of showing him and telling him how much it has meant to them. And that's just such a little thing that everybody can do. As individuals of the church, I think we could probably be doing more. My husband has been burdened by this, especially this past Christmas. A lot of his residents where he works, they're just alone. They have nobody, and it breaks his heart that they're sitting in their apartments with nothing. There's no decorations. There's no family coming. There's not even a Christmas card that they've received that he can see laying around. And we've already been making some plans to do something next Christmas to reach out to those who don't have anyone during the holidays, and we're kind of getting excited about it. I think it's fun to just reach out to people, and for those who aren't reaching out, I think they're missing out on something.
One of the commendable things that you're doing, I am reminded of my grandmother, who I pick up every weekend. I pick up my grandmother. She spends the weekend with me. And I was reminded when I picked her up one time, there was a lady who was sitting at the door in her wheelchair waiting for a delivery of some sort. And I came in, and one of the other ladies who always sees me come in and pick my grandmother up, she goes, yeah, they pick up their grandma every weekend, all the time. Just how old people talking. And that lady looked so sad and jealous at the same time. I will never forget the look on her face. And I remember thinking, oh, my gosh, I don't think she has anyone.
And then it's heartbreaking.
It is. It's absolutely heartbreaking. You don't know whether or not these people were cruel in their youth or not. You don't know. But at the same time, I kind of believe no one should be alone that way, especially older people. They need help. And when I had the opportunity, actually late last year, I had the opportunity to actually talk with her because she was actually hitchhiking, trying to get to church. She was hitchhiking. And I saw her, and it was cold. I'll never forget it, Ruth. Long ago, it was cold. She was hitchhiking, and everyone kept going by her. I said, oh, my gosh, what is going on? So I went and I said, can I help you? And so, I just want to get to church. The people who were supposed to take me to church forgot about me, and she just looked really heartbroken. And I said, wow, and it just touched my heart. So I'm glad we're talking about somewhere I belong. And I told her, I said, hey, if you need something, we will take you if you need to go. It's not far from our house. The church she wants to go to is not far from our house. But we never interacted with her again because she doesn't come down very often. But you could just see a cape of loneliness, a cloak of loneliness over her. And so I'm glad that the Lord is calling you to do that. And that's coming out of your comfort zone too, Ruth, about being with people you may not necessarily want to do that with, but I'm glad the Lord's using you that way.
I'll be cooking, so that is a comfort zone for me. So I'm surprised at my husband because we wanted to have them all over for dinner, for a Christmas dinner, and just do something nice for them. And so cooking is good for me, but for him to invite all these people, that's definitely out of his comfort zone. But we're looking forward to it. It'll be fun.
Well, we're getting close to the end of our time, and it always goes so quickly. I always enjoy talking with our guests. It always seems to go so quickly. So I want people to know, what are your next projects that you're currently working on right now?
Well, my work in progress is tentatively entitled Lunch Ladies. It'll be the third standalone book in my What a Difference a Year Makes series, which Belonging is a part of. The theme of this book is something else that's near and dear to my heart, and I think as Christians we drop the ball when someone needs us. We ask our friends how they're doing, but we really don't want to know the answer. And there may be even friends that we don't even ask the question because we don't want to hear what they have to say. But the group of ladies in my book, they're there for each other. They're there through thick and thin. They're there at any time of the day or night. Over the years, I've been so blessed to have women like this in my own life, and I hope and pray that I can be exactly what someone needs at exactly the time that they need it. And I have to depend on God for help with that. My mouth has a tendency to spew forth words without any thought from my brain, and that's not always helpful. And I know sometimes it's actually hurtful, which is never my intention. But I hope Lunch Ladies will help, especially women, men too, but it's geared more toward women, to just reach out to each other and just be there.
Now, I want people to know about your books. Do you have any kind of specials going on with your books right now?
I do. This week, most of my e-books are on sale. That includes Come Eat at My Table and Belonging, which are both part of the What a Difference a Year Makes series. And they're standalone books. They're not related at all, so it doesn't matter what order you read them in. I also have Victory Song, which is a Civil War historical novel that was written by my mother. I have a devotional for young ladies who are contemplating marriage. When my girls were starting to get to where they wanted to, get married, there was things that I wanted to tell them. Because the girls, they always prepare for the wedding. There's a lot of time and effort put into preparing for the wedding with no thought to the marriage and what happens after the wedding. But all of those ebooks, they're all 99 cents for right now through Saturday, the 30th.
Okay.
And they're all on Amazon, so they're easy to find.
I want people to find where you are online. So go ahead and let them know what your social media hookups are.
Okay, I'm on Facebook. I'm Ruth O'Neill Author. I'm on Twitter at Writer Ruth O. My blog is ruthsreallife.blogspot.com, and my website is rutho'neill.weebly.com.
Now, as we get ready to end our show, Ruth, we got a couple of minutes left. What are some encouraging words you can give to our authors who are in the audience that God has given the gift to write and they haven't picked up the pen yet? What encouraging words can you give them?
Oh, pick up that pen. Pick up the pen and keep on writing. I remember when my children were little, I never thought I would get any writing done at all. I would put down my pen for a while, but God would keep nudging me during those times that I wasn't writing because I wasn't doing what He had asked me to do. And yes, there's going to be discouraging times. Yes, life will throw interruptions your way. But unless you keep at it, you will never know how much your words can help someone else. And God will send that encouragement exactly when you need it, because I had written some devotions for a magazine or something, and when the scheduled dates came out, I actually had a lady call me and tell me how much it meant to her. I had no idea who this lady was, had never met her, never heard of her, but she took the time to look me up in the phone book and find my number, and I was able to chat with her for a little while, and I think it was a great encouragement to both of us. But yes, pick up that pen and start writing. Even if you just write for yourself, write in a journal. Maybe later you can use that. But don't neglect it. Keep at it.
Ruth, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us on the show today. I really appreciate you helping us to find a place where we belong. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun.
And we were talking today to Ruth O'Neill. She is the author of the book Belonging, which is available online at Amazon.com. To get more information about Ruth and what she's doing, her ministries, simply visit her website at ruthsreallife.blogspot.com. So that's ruth-real-life.blogspot.com. You can follow her on Twitter at Writer R. Ruth O, and you can just find out more information about her. So go ahead and love her, my sister. She is having a sale on some of her books this week up to the 31st, and they're 99 cents, all kind of varieties for you to enjoy. So go ahead, go to Amazon.com, search Ruth O'Neill, find Belonging, and be blessed. Don't forget to join me Saturday for the Parker J. Cole Show at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time right here on WPJC 104.5. Be glad to have you. We'll be having open mic that day, so I'm looking forward to that. I'll be talking about all kinds of things on the show. And then if you want to follow the show blog, simply go to my blog, therightstuffradio.wordpress.com. And if you ever want to be on the show, send me an email. My email address is rightstuffradio@gmail.com. Follow the blog at therightstuffradio.wordpress.com. For more information about me, follow me on Twitter at Parker J. Cole and my website, parkerjcole.com. Thank you so much for joining me for this edition of The Right Stuff. You have a wonderful day, and God bless.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of The Right Stuff. Follow Parker online at parkerjcole.com. To hear this show and other shows, visit the show archive at therightstuffradio.wordpress.com. We'll be back same time next week, 7 p.m. Eastern Time.